Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joseph Wozniak. I'm with the International Trade Center in Geneva, Switzerland. I'm with my colleague, Madison Wilcox, as well, who's on our team. And we also have colleagues from DG Trade in Brussels, Fabio De Franceschi. Fabio, I don't know if you would like just to say a few words before we kick off the webinar today.
Yes, well, welcome everyone and good afternoon. I'm Fabio De Franceschi, here in grey Brussels from the grey buildings on the European Commission. And welcome to this webinar for the first edition of the EU Cities for Fair and Ethical Trade Award. It's an important initiative for our trade policy. It's something that the Commissioner has wanted to work on for a long time. It's something that has been in the requests and desires of other European institutions and stakeholders. So we're very happy to have launched the application process 7th of December last year. And of course, I mean, there is still time to apply. Applications will close on the 13th of April, but I'm sure there are many questions you want to ask about the application and the evaluation criteria and other aspects of the world. We are totally open. So thanks for having registered and feel free to shoot.
Great. So thanks very much, Fabio. So what we'll do, we have the official time for the webinar this afternoon is an hour and a half, which would go until approximately 4 o'clock, or sorry, 3:30, no, 4 o'clock actually, right? 4 o'clock Central European time. So what we'll do now is we'll have a half hour or so of presentation where I'll go over the basic information on the EU Cities for Fair and Ethical Trade Award, the timetable, and the overall, let's say, criteria that we are putting in place. And then we'll, after that half-hour presentation or so, we'll then open it up for questions and answers by all participants who are here at the webinar today. So what I'll do right now is I will start off with the presentation. Always does this. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. So in terms of the award, why an award for fair and ethical trade? So basically, this is really to support the European Commission DG Trade policy, the Trade for All communication, which was launched by Commissioner Malmström at the end of 2016. The idea here is to increase the awareness of the overall EU public and to bolster, if you will, the role of EU local and public authorities regarding the promotion of fair and ethical trade policies and products, and also to disseminate good practices and provide incentives for the uptake of various fair and ethical trade products and policies in local communities, local authorities in the European Union. So it's really fundamental to the Trade for All communication, the Trade for All strategy that has been developed by DG Trade. Also, we're looking to really understand the way that consumers are using sustainable sourcing, sustainable products to really understand, to really further, if you will, development in emerging market economies, okay? And also how companies, whether they're international corporations or they're regional or local companies, are also implementing these types of policies in their operations. We're also looking at various mechanisms like sustainability standards. These are codes of conduct. These are public-facing standards that are on a product, for example, like fair trade chocolate or UTZ cocoa, for example, to recognize these types of instruments as ways to improve to improve sustainability at the upstream level, at the farmer level, but also then to increase the awareness of consumers as to the issues related to sustainability and the opportunities that are there for producers that are actually engaging in fair and ethical. When we look at this word fair and ethical, what do we mean by that? What we mean is more or less anything that we would consider sustainable. So environmental sustainability, social and labor sustainability, economic sustainability, improving the overall conditions of production and processing at the origin level in an emerging market or a developing country. So there's a various let's say, wide spectrum of terminology and definitions. And so fair and ethical, in our case, would mean, let's say, the larger view of sustainability. So environmental, social, and economic. So it's the way to, I would say, to look at it. Really, with the ultimate goal here is to contribute toward the awareness and the promotion of developing more sustainable trade opportunities for small producers who are exporting to the European Union. That's really a way that we're trying to get this whole issue of sustainable trade and sustainable production into a more of a mainstream understanding at the European Union level. So, and why is an award an important part of that? Because based on our work, we know that there's a lack of information about the various, let's say, levels of access to sustainable trade and sustainable opportunities by producers and processors in the developing world. And also, there's also a lack of information in many cases from the consumer level. So we're really trying to bridge that gap and to provide more of an understanding of the link between trade and development and the challenges that are posed, if you will, by trading sustainably. So it's really that's the core rationale. Why is ITC, the International Trade Center, involved? So the International Trade Center, we're a joint WTO UN organization. We're based here in Geneva, Switzerland, and our mission is really to foster sustainable and inclusive growth through trade. So we work directly with exporters, with processors, with producers in emerging markets to help them trade, export in a sustainable way, economically, environmentally, and socially. And that's why we're partnering with DG Trade on this important initiative. So it's our role as a UN and neutral agency to actually implement this award. And we've been working in the sustainable trade field for many years, for over 10 years now. And so we have a level of experience and understanding that allow us to intervene and work in this space in a way that is both neutral, but also leveraging our networks, our contacts, and indeed our technical knowledge. So the main features of the award, basically, these are the features, the design that we have developed over the past several months, starting at the beginning of last year, at the beginning of 2017. So basically, the award will be issued in 2018, but it will be for the Fair and Ethical Trade City of 2019. So it'll be forward-looking. And so the ceremony will take place in June of this year in Brussels, but with the forward-looking aspect of having the award be a Fair and Ethical Trade City of 2019. There will be one overall award winner, but there'll be a range of special mentions. So there'll be subcategories such as city with the best procurement policy or sustainable public procurement policy, most innovative approach toward sustainability by a city, or most innovative approach toward engaging with local countries in the developing world vis-a-vis fair and ethical trade policies and exchanges. And also maybe a best small city, should a city win with a certain level of inhabitants, for example. So there are various different types of special mentions that we would be considering through the application process. In terms of the evaluation criteria, there are three main criteria that we're going to be looking at. The first is the policy framework that is adopted or implemented by the city. So that could be their strategy, their leadership, their vision, their relevant internal structures, their policy frameworks that deal with fair and ethical trade, that deal with sustainability. This is really a policy level framework that a city would have in place. The second is what are different practices that we can see, that we can observe, that are actually going on now. These could be actual projects, so exchanges or other types of interactions with local entities in the developing world. So projects, development projects with third country partners, sustainable public procurement policies. So a certain percentage of the city's budget is allocated toward sustainable procurement or sustainable purchases of institutional products, whether it's uniforms, whether it's coffee, whether it's timber, wood products, whatever the case may be. And then lastly, multi-stakeholder activities. So initiatives that are within the city ecosystem. And so what I mean by that is basically beyond, if you will, the city hall, beyond the public sector of that city, the overall, let's say, community and civil society or non-governmental organizations, different groups that are convened with the support, if you will, and encouragement of the city to engage in fair and ethical trade or sustainable type activities that are engaging with a developing country or emerging market context. So we're looking at more or less not only the public space, but the public sector space or the municipal space, but also the overall, let's say, societal space of the residents of the city. What are they doing, for example? And then we look at also finally overlying or underlying this whole, let's say, evaluation criteria is the context. So again, you know, we're looking at the overall context in terms of, even if it's a smaller size city, not a nation's capital, for example, but a smaller size city, we're also looking to say, what is the context? So even if it's a smaller type city, we can take into consideration ideas or projects or programs or multi-stakeholder activities that they have in place, which even though maybe let's say less of a scale than a capital city, would still obviously be important and be something which we could look at replicating down the road in terms of future awards or best practices that we can communicate in the activities that go on beyond, if you will, the award ceremony this coming June. And then also I should note, and we'll go over this in a few minutes, is the Living Book, which we have developed in conjunction with our technical working group and our governance committee that we have established for this project, is online on our website, which I'll go over in a few minutes. But this Living Book provides you, the city, with ideas and suggestions and contexts that would help you, if you will, when you complete your application. So we've provided as best as we can case studies and other examples that put a little of an example or a context to the evaluation criteria that I just outlined, and that is the Living Book, and we'll go over that where you can find that in a few minutes. So the criteria for the award. So these are important. The criteria are also provided on our website. So all this information that I'm going over now verbally is provided in written printed form, and it's all available on our website. But basically, I just wanted to go over these now for the sake of the webinar. So basically, the award is open to all cities in EU member states with the official submission by the local authority. So the mayoral declaration from the municipality or the person or entity responsible for that city. Basically, other organizations like NGOs or civil society organizations can apply, but they have to have the endorsement of that mayoral representation in their application packet, and that type of mayoral declaration is also provided in the application pack, so it's all there for you. So it's not just the city itself that can apply, but also civil society organizations in the various cities with the approval, if you will, or endorsement of the mayor and municipality. The idea here is to focus the award in relationship to trade between an EU city and a third country outside of the European Union. And here we mean in most cases a developing or emerging market country where the issues of sustainable production, the environmental, the social issues are most acute. So really we're looking at this as an external type view, if you will. So how is the city engaging with a third country outside of the European Union area? And when we mean a city, that is exactly what our definition is. It's really an urban area. It's not a large metropolitan area such as Métropole Paris, for example, that includes various other smaller cities that comprise the metropolitan area. We're looking really at the city itself. So the Ville de Paris in the French example. So it has to be that local, if you will, entity. Also, we are looking at a minimum threshold of 20,000 inhabitants. So that means that cities that are above 20,000 inhabitants are able to apply, not below. And that threshold has been established. The award cycle is planned to take place every other year. So basically, we will have the award being issued this coming June 2018, for a city, for a fair and ethical city of 2019, which means the process will repeat itself in 2020, and then there will be the second, let's say, city, fair and ethical trade city in 2021. So every other year. And award winners from prior years will be welcome to apply again after the first initial period, which means that the winner in 2018 will not be able to apply for the award in 2020, but thereafter. The award procedure, in terms of the process from today and moving out into the future, is the following: is that right now the application process is open. So the process has been open since, as Fabio mentioned, since December 7th. Actually, can someone mute their microphone from receiving feedback? Thanks. So the application period started on the 7th of December, and it's open through the 13th of April. So there is still time to apply. Basically, the application process is relatively straightforward, and we'll go over that in a few moments when we give you a brief tour of the website. And again, when you know, I need to emphasize that in terms of the criteria for the application, we're looking here for you know, we value both the public sector intervention at the city level, but also, if you will, the private sector or the NGO civil society engagement in terms of the application. And right now we're in the process of outreach, communications of the award, holding these types of webinars for interested cities. Then we have the pre-selection process, which follows the closure of the applications on the 13th of April. The evaluation committee, we are in the process now of selecting that group. They will check against compliance to make sure that the application is valid based on our compliance criteria, which I also went over. And then they will establish a long list of cities, and then basically from that long list, a short list of possible winners and honorable special mentions, as I discussed. Finally, a smaller jury that was nominated by the European Commission and ITC will make the final decision of the award winner and the special mentions. That will be a closed vote, and then the ceremony will take place at the end of June in Brussels. And that's more or less the procedure. In terms of the prize and benefits, obviously, what we're expecting here from the main benefits of the award is obviously increased visibility for that city or the cities that are the winning city, and then the honorable mentions with positive media coverage, recognition not only from DG Trade, the European Commission, but also other sustainability-related organizations here in the EU. And that visibility can then be used, obviously, by the city in terms of their outreach with partners, with investors, with whomever, in terms of how they're making a contribution towards sustainability, insofar as also other types of activities, whether it be demonstrating their progress or their contributions towards things as the Sustainable Development Goals, for example. Then there will be support from us, from ITC, and also from DG Trade in terms of producing different types of public materials that you as a city can use on your city website when you have different conferences or regional or national events to actually publicize the fact that that you are the winner or an honorable mention of this award. So we would be working in cooperation with you to develop those. Then the idea here is that this is not just a kind of once-off isolated award event that takes place in June, but rather part of a longer, a longer, let's say, partnership between us, DG Trade, and a growing community of EU cities for fair and ethical trade. So really to really develop a network amongst the winners, meaning the winning city plus the special mentions, to share best practices, to participate in various public fora on sustainability in cooperation with us and DG Trade. And then last but not least, the prize or benefit is also a implementable project with us, with ITC in the field, meaning in a developing country, working with a city in a developing country that we would receive financial support from DG Trade up to 100,000 euros, which would be then implemented in the field. So it's a project budget that can essentially be implemented in conjunction with ITC and the winning city in a developing country context. And insofar as you would have ideas for what that project could be or what city would be interesting in your view, then that also can be articulated in your application in terms of what kind of project you would, if you had the budget, that you would implement. So these are also ideas that we would welcome. This is the award website. Basically, what we'll do now is we'll shift to a brief. My colleague Madison will do a brief demo of the website, not a demo, but just to show you how the website works. But just to say here before we wrap up with our presentation, all the information that I discussed today is found on this website. All the data, the rules of contest, the living book, all the information that you would need would be provided on the website, as well as the link to the application form. So please do consult this page on a regular basis in order for you to be able to follow the latest information. I don't know if you. I think more or less that is the last that we have for the presentation today. Before we open up to questions, what I'll do is I'll just let my colleague Madison go online for a brief second to show you how the website functions, and then we'll open it up to Q&A.
Yes, thank you, Joe. So just briefly, we would like to show you the award website and where you can access the various documents that we were discussing. So if we go to tradecityaward.eu, here you can see our homepage, which has a description of the award, of all of our all of the benefits of the award and what the award recognizes. So then if you follow this page to the Apply Now button, you'll then get taken to the Apply Now page of the website. This page contains a description of the application process, and it also contains downloadable forms that are necessary in order to fill out the application. So here you can find the overall rules of contest. This gives a background to the award, a description of the overall award process, and it also contains annexes, which include the mayoral declaration, which upon completing the application process online, you'll need to get a signature of the award declaration and then scan it and then have it uploaded into the application portal. You can also see the living book here, which is a downloadable file, and that contains a plethora of examples to give a more concrete look at what we're talking about in terms of stakeholder engagement, in terms of city initiatives, in terms of policy and overarching ideas. And then we also have our data protection policy. So if you go up to the online application portal, it will take you to our application portal here. You select Apply Now, which is in the corner. And then you log in with your respective email.
I'm looking for the app. Yes, so.
And this takes you to your dashboard in which you create a profile and a password saying which organization you represent and which city you represent. And then you go to apply now. And you'll begin the application process. So from here, you select submit abstract. And then one by one, you go through filling out the name of the city and through giving a descriptive summary. And then questions 1 through 8. And each of these sections of each question has a word limit in order to keep the application succinct and at a manageable level in terms of evaluation and review. So at this point,